In this lesson, we will cover tools, tips, as well as brushes to create geometry. I want to start things off by briefly introducing you to a piece of hardware known as the Nostromo N52. It's pretty much a gamepad that a lot of artists are incorporating into their pipeline. The one on the right is compatible with Windows 7 and up, and the one on the left is 7 and down. They typically cost around like 50 to 60 bucks and worth every penny. Anyone that has one can tell you that. So if you can get your hands on one of these, definitely do so. Alright, so I'm going to go over here into ZBrush. And the first topic I want to cover is the transpose tool. Having some mastery over your transpose tool is very important. Alright, and as well as knowing the advanced features available to you to each transformation. Starting off with the move tool, you have the ability to do what's known as a transpose clip, where you sample a surface like so, grab the inner circle right off the surface and pull, therefore clipping. And you can do this all day, which you will see me do quite often throughout our course. It's very, very handy. Also, if you drag out a transpose line and hold Alt in the move transformation, you can do a little bend deformation like so, as well as grabbing a center line with Alt allow you to do that as well. Not to mention a very useful duplication means of holding Control, clicking center circle, and pulling to create duplicates. This is very useful for rapid prototyping. I can come in here and quickly make a gun like so, hit Dynamesh or whatnot. Also, Scale has a Alt feature. You hold Alt, you can kind of do a little taper or inflate. Same works for the center. So we'll inflate like so. Alright, let's move on to some brushes to create some geometry. First and foremost is extraction. Very basic means draw out your mask, go to extract like so, hit accept, and there's our quick little surface generation. Now these are just pieces to get a good start to further developing and refining, so just keep that in mind. The next brush we have here is the lathe curve brush. Just bring that up. This one I don't use too much, but it is very powerful when the scenario arises. Just draw a curve, and notice that that line is where our curve will revolve around for further editing. I have my curve features inside of my stroke menu. I'll show you real quick. I have the end and beginning start as it is locked. This allows you to edit this curve without it rotating all the time. Just commit that and create all types of things like doorknob and legs for furniture. It's very, very useful. Also, moving on is a shadow box. Don't use a whole lot of shadow box, but the moment it rises, it has its uses. So let's go ahead and turn on shadow box. As it's used, clear the mask that it created, and just sketch out things. There are moments where just going into shadow box will be way more efficient than trying to work with primitive shapes. So go ahead and X shadow box. So that's something that will get used. One of my favorite brushes we have here is the Topology Brush, and it is used as so. Just drawing out some curves and quadding them out. Make sure your brush size is big enough. You can trial and error this and just click. Maybe if I wanted it bigger, click. and it will create as well as polygroups and as well as crease the edges, something very useful. I don't use too much use of the creases, but it is there if you do. Other things to note about the Topology Brush is that it will work across subtools as most of the curve brushes do. So that rectangle we have hanging out is a separate subtool, and I'm drawing across it as well as our sphere to generate a piece of geometry that inherits the curvature of two separate subtools. Very, very powerful. Moving along, we have Curve Snap Surface. Another useful piece that works as follows. Just make some strokes, and it's just continuing. I can see this used for things such as maybe hair or just creating individual strips. Create, commit, create, commit. Other things to note about this brush is that by default your stroke modifiers, your distance might be too high, so turn it down to like 10 like I have in mine, and you can create those strips without any problems. Another thing to note is that when you start from up to down, up from top to bottom, do not start from bottom to top, or you'll get a twist like so. So that's Curve Snap. Next is the Curve TriFill, a brush that has specific use when a scenario arises. You draw out by so, create a flat piece of geometry from a projected curve, and your brush size determines the thickness as most curve brushes. You can still go ahead and edit this. I can see this used to create things like wings or other types of hard surface. You can go ahead and draw on it some more, create another piece. Go ahead and commit that. That's the Curve TriFill. And last but not least, we have panel loops. Panel loops are very useful. I don't need to tell you that. They're amazing. I'm going to use the slice brush. They've already have slice curve. Create some polygroups for us. Alright. Now I'm going to my hotkey panel and turn my loops for it down to 3. My bevel stays at 50. My thickness, turn that up some. And I like to set my elevation to negative 100. And this, from my test, tends to keep my shape from deforming or inflating as it would normally do. Go ahead and hit panel loops. Not bad, not bad. And I also use double. I forgot to mention, I use double when I do my panel loops, so I get some thickness on the inside. Now, this is typically extra geometry, but it'll give me a shell that's useful and a bevel that I can extract. So now I got little strips that I can isolate. Alright. And what I tend to do is go ahead and hit auto groups, so I will get full shells that I can split and use as I will. Alright. That concludes this lesson. In the next lesson, we will go over brushes and tips for this course. So I'll see you there.